What I'm trying to do here is to balance these two elements in this on this ruler. I've got a heavy full can of Coke and a little jar of tempera paint. I'm trying to find a way that I can balance these. Balance is a sense of being comfortable in this, and it's also a sense of being comfortable in a work of art. So in our works of art, we have to have balance also. We'll see several ways that we can establish balance in a work of art. When two elements on a balance like this, or in a painting also, are equal on both sides of the center, we call that symmetrical balance. If one of the elements seems much larger, but is lighter in weight than the other one, and they still seem to balance, even though they are seemingly off-center, we call that asymmetrical balance. In sculpture, if we look at a sculpture, the sculpture is balanced symmetrically. Right down the middle, both elements on both sides are exactly the same. I have another little owl here that is asymmetrically balanced. If we put a line here about where there's equal amount of weight on one side or the other, there's much more on one side, but it seems balanced because of the activity, all the activity in the head being on this side of the sculpture. Paintings also can either be symmetrical or asymmetrically balanced. This painting by Frida Kahlo is symmetrically balanced, with almost everything on one side being the same as that on the other. If we look at a Winslow Homer painting, Winslow Homer's painting has many more objects on one side than it does on the other. It's not symmetrically balanced. If we put a line down the middle, there's more weight on one side than the other, but the little bright spot over here seems to balance all of this weight on this side. Not all paintings need to be balanced asymmetrically or symmetrically. If we look at Mark Tobey's painting with an all-over pattern, there's no need to balance because everything seems to be already in balance. If we want to make projects using symmetrical balance, we can make a whole lot of charts like this with nice bright colors and cut out paper so that they're exactly the same on one side as the other. I can make them very fancy. I can keep adding pieces to that. I can keep building those up and keeping them in symmetrical balance. This would not be in symmetrical balance. So I could put that back in exactly the way it was in symmetrical balance. I could put lines down the center. So you could do all kinds of pieces of paper. You can draw in there, paint in there, add postage stamps, whatever you want to do, but keeping everything the same on both sides of the center line. Asymmetrical balance and projects that work with asymmetrical balance means that we have to have larger spaces on one side, maybe they're duller in color, balanced by a smaller space farther away from the center, from the fulcrum, that gives a sense of balance, a sense of being comfortable. So when we want to play with those, we have to say we work on projects that are going to use those things. We have to put colors on one side that are a little bit duller, on the other side a little bit brighter to make them seem in balance. You can even move this over to the center a little bit to keep that feels in balance. If this were very bright over here, if we put something over here like this, it would no longer be in balance. This would be stronger. So we want to keep one side a little bit neutral, make the other side a little bit brighter. We can look at this nice bright red over here. We can balance that. We can move that out farther even if that's so bright in order to make that and keep that in balance. Look, for example, at asymmetrical balance. Here's a photograph that is in visual balance, even though it's asymmetrical. If we put a line down the center of that, there's more activity on one side, but it's duller, more of the same. Over here, we have a lot of contrast between dark and light. Visually, that feels comfortable.